right, welcome back. It is another Chunk podcast, and DJ Khaled will not be participating in this one. I know he did in the last one, and he actually sued us, so we can't say DJ Khaled's catchphrase anymore. But welcome to another podcast. We've got JJ, we've got Lynch, and we have Regi, and it's happening this weekend. It's the Chunk Fantasy Football Draft, and it will be happening live on our Facebook page. If you want to follow us, search for The Chunk or facebook.com/TheChunkPod. Give us a like while you're there. You will be able to watch live and participate in our fantasy football draft this weekend. I'm super excited for it. I don't know if you guys are ready, but I'm pretty amped.
I'm ready. This is the biggest day of my year. I wait all year for this day.
My question is, participating. You said that they're going to participate with us. How are they participating?
Okay, let me tell you. When you go Facebook Live, people are allowed to comment. So when they comment, we will be able to, or at least I'll have it up in front of me, we'll be able to communicate with them via comments. And Facebook Live also has this weird feature where you can potentially bring someone on to your Facebook Live video with you. I don't know what, I mean, it'd be like surfing through Omegle, so you probably wouldn't want to do it. But
Omegle.
I'm just saying. But it's a feature that they have. So they could potentially participate on our Facebook page, but they have to like us first on Facebook. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of things going on. We'll be Facebook Live for easily over an hour, possibly two, because some people draft very, very slowly.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm going to live tweet the draft on the Fantasy Football Twitter account, so check that out.
All right, so basically just follow at the Chunk Pod. You'll get access to all of our fantasy football tidbits via our fantasy football Twitter, because if we had it going on the same one, basically, I mean, Reggie's handling the fantasy football stuff on the Twitter, but he's going balls to the walls, and not everybody is down with the fantasy football. So follow us on Twitter. Follow us literally anywhere. We would appreciate it. But we are excited for this weekend and the fantasy football draft. There's only 4 of us here, but there's 12 total in the league. So it's going to be exciting. 12, I feel like 12 is like the perfect size for a fantasy football league. I don't know what other leagues you guys are in, but to me, 12 is that perfect sweet spot where you have enough depth available, and it also requires a little bit of research.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like 10, some teams are, you're just, everyone is good, and then you run into the problem of Jarvis Landry this week, or do I play DeAndre Hopkins this week? And you still have, another top wide receiver on your team. So I like 12, because then you get into, threes in your team.
Yeah, remember when we first started this league years ago? It wasn't the Chunk Fantasy Football. It was the Super Duper Fantasy Football League. And if you've gone over to our Facebook page, you can see a little throwback video we did for Nicky when he almost left the league. Pretty interesting little video. I whipped it up. I spent way too much time on it to try to get him to come back to the league. But anyway, we were doing 8-man leagues back in the day. 8-man, 2-quarterback leagues when we first started this. Those were the days, though.
That was so much fun.
I do miss the 2-quarterback league. I don't know. It was fun for me.
I loved it.
I always hated on both quarterbacks, too. So I got stuck with, the scrubs.
Yeah, a little Josh Freeman action in your life.
I love the 8-team leagues, but I'm not a big fan of the 12. I like 10.
Of course,
better, just because everyone has a good team. You have good players, and then you don't have to worry about, okay, I need to start this 4th string wide receiver to win this week, which you do in a 12-team league. So that's just my personal.
That sounds like the talk of someone who doesn't want to work for it.
I do. I just like winning better, and I won 4 championships with the 10 league. Just saying.
I will give you credit. We have been playing since 2012, and Regi did go on a 4-year straight championship run, and he knocked me off in the championship. I believe twice at least, but I was like a perennial second placer, and it was making me sad. But it's a new league. It's the Chunk Fantasy Football League. We've moved on, and this is where we're at. We're excited for the draft this weekend, but. To start this off, I know we have all already picked our draft orders. If you've seen it on our Facebook page, you can see it on our website, thechunkpod.com. We picked our draft orders by picking a character in Super Smash Brothers and letting that character do the work for us. But I just want to know right out the gate, Regi, you did wind up getting the first pick overall.
That's
is
that's shenanigans, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Who did you wind up picking? I don't remember who it was.
I picked Ness. I'm a big Earthbound fan. Shout out to Earthbound. And then if you watch video on Facebook, one of the greatest comeback Super Smash Brothers history. He's like down to one life. There's like 3 people with more, comes back and wins it. So shout out to Ness.
Ness camped the entire time.
No, he didn't.
I don't know. It did kind of look like Ness was hiding in the corner like a little baby back bitch. But hey, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
PG-13.
But it's what whatever you got to do to get the W. But you are in the number 1 spot. And one question I wanted to ask everyone here is, what would you do with the number 1 spot? We did kind of talk about it with you a little bit before we started the podcast. You have a very interesting take on what you would do, but I don't want to hear from you right away because you have the pick. Let's hear from Lynch first. If you had the number 1 pick in the draft, where would you go? Because I feel like there's at least 3, maybe two or 3 that would be okay there.
I know that it's traditionally, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon, Zeke, and then David Johnson. In the PPR league and in the Cardinals offense this year, I would go with David Johnson, number 1.
Okay, that's bold. Listen, I love David Johnson. Unfortunately, I drafted him last year, and I held him on my team for the entire season because I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of him. I love him too much. But you're high on the Cardinals offense this year?
Not necessarily high on them.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. I didn't think that they were going to be
the Cardinals offense.
I think they are going to be serviceable, and I'm taking DBS player on the team. Bradford is serviceable enough to, distribute the ball to Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, whoever they have at tight end, J.J. Nelson, and, is one of the most dangerous running backs coming out of the backfield.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love David Johnson. I don't think I would pick him with the number 1 pick if it was me personally. JJ, if you had the number 1 pick right now, from what you've seen, what would you be doing with it?
I always kind of go back and forth. Personally, I feel as though it is not typical for the top running backs to be consistent contributors from year to year, except for Le'Veon Bell. And in years past, I've gone quarterback in the first round.
Ooh, bold move.
That is bold.
Yeah. Usually I like to grab a quarterback, especially during those Peyton Manning years at the end. But I think in this year's draft, I do think that grabbing Le'Veon Bell is probably what I would do with the number 1 pick, just because I don't think that the Steelers – I don't think that Big Ben's getting any better at passing. But Le'Veon Bell is just, he's a workhorse. He gets mad carries, and I just think he's probably the safest bet at number 1.
And that's speaking from experience, because I believe late last season you did finagle a trade where you had him for a little while. You were able to experience what it was like to have a high quality player on your team, so maybe you're speaking from a little bit of experience.
Yes, for 2 weeks I did experience what it was like to have a high quality player on my team.
You did.
And then I traded him for several kind of good players to try and make that playoff push, but it didn't work out for me.
No, you did shore up a lot of holes using that one large chip, so I will give it to you in that aspect. I saw what you were doing, but now you have a fresh slate. You can do whatever you'd like. And basically you can try to build an even team from the get-go. But you were catching on late last year. I think you're going to be good moving forward. Let me just say what I think I would do with the first pick. I can't believe we're all actually probably going to be in different houses here, but I don't think it's even a question. Todd Gurley, he showed what he could do last year, both catching the ball and running the ball. The dude's a savage, right? And I just think the Rams' offense, their offense and defense together, I think they're just the most complete team going right now. Their offense is electric, and he is the workhorse of that offense. I just don't see any other way I would go with the number 1 pick. But let me see if there is another way we could go by asking Regi what he would do with the number 1 pick, considering the fact that he actually has the number 1 pick.
I do have the number 1 pick. I like what JJ was saying. In theory, I would want to take Le'Veon Bell. I mean, he's a beast. He gets like 100 catches a year, gets all the carries, he's always on the field, always getting the ball. So when he's not suspended, he's usually plays a lot. So I would go with Le'Veon Bell, but I am a Cowboys fan. It physically pains me to see him play for somebody else's fantasy team, so I feel like I have to take Ezekiel Elliott with the number pick, which I probably will do. Spoiler alert. But I go with Zeke.
That's where you and I are different. I'm a Packers fan, but I won't reach. Not that you're reaching very far, because there is like the top 5. Listen to me. The top 5 are all to me interchangeable. They're not too far away from each other. I believe there's 5 elite players that will make your team very good. But I won't reach for a Packers player, despite my desire for all of them. Like, I would love to have a team with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and I won't choose any of those 3 running backs because, honestly, it's a crapshoot at this point. There's 3 running backs that could potentially be good, so I just won't even go in that way. But I would love to have Rodgers and Adams, and maybe even Jimmy Graham sometime down the line, but I won't reach for him.
That is true. I usually don't reach. It's not really much of a reach for Zeke to go number 1. It just, But I feel like with Gurley, he had that one really bad year in his second season. Like, he wasn't good at all.
Yeah, so neither were the Rams, though.
If that happens again, I mean, who knows?
No, but neither were the Rams is what I'm telling you. But the Rams are on the up and up right now. Jared Goff is coming into his own. I think all signs point to Gurley right now. I don't even think it's close.
I mean, maybe. Who knows? I mean, everyone has predictions like who's going to be good, but as the season unfolds, no one really knows who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. So it all depends.
No, you're right.
Did you guys see that Ben left practice yesterday with a possible concussion?
Yes, I
Big
did.
Ben?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
I guess I've heard he ran into one of his O-linemen, fell and hit his head on the ground.
Yeah, they said that his head snapped back, and they put him in concussion protocol. So,
wow.
But I mean, it's the preseason, so it doesn't technically matter to him.
Yeah.
He probably shouldn't play.
Okay.
But it's once that first concussion of the year happens, the second and third.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for those. Yeah, you gotta watch out for those offensive linemen. You never go full Sanchez. You just can't do it. All right, I'm just saying it's never a good look. So that will, like you said, that would affect Antonio Brown going into the draft. Somebody who may pick him in the top 5 might drop a little bit farther if there's no assurance that Big Ben is ready for the season opener. But again, it was week 1. He probably doesn't even want to play preseason anyway, so he could be flopping. He could be pulling, a LeBron and flopping on everybody. So, yeah, that was shots fired, by the way, on LeBron. Sorry.
I mean, if Big Ben doesn't play, then clearly the Steelers are just going to do Wildcat the entire game.
Oh yeah, why not?
We got Landry Jones, the savior.
He's serviceable. I don't think he's terrible. But anyway.
He's terrible.
Juju Schuster-Smith is really fast.
Oh, yeah, dude's awesome. Yeah, no, I like him. Okay, I want to get thoughts on where you guys are actually picking in the draft. I know we just heard from Regi, so we don't need to hear from him again. So, Regi, you can take a nap.
All right, see it.
So we'll move on to Lynch. I believe, Lynch, you are picking 4th in the draft. I'm kind of wondering, are you okay with this spot? Like, were you happy when you got it? And how is it looking in mock drafts? Are you happy with the teams that you might be able to make?
I mean, wasn't happy because I feel had I gotten the 3rd pick, I have a little bit more control of who I get, because obviously if my prediction comes true, it's Reggie's taking Zeke number 1, saying as you said, Todd Gurley the 1 would go number 2, and then I have my pick of Le'Veon and David Johnson. I'm slightly afraid that whoever is picking at 3 will take David Johnson from underneath my fingertips.
We'll see if they listen to the podcast between now and then.
Yeah. Well, he made it very clear, even in the comments section of the video that chose the draft order. He made it very clear he wanted David Johnson, so he's not shying away from that.
Even at 4, I'm comfortable coming back in 2nd round and grabbing a quality wide receiver, or stacking that 2nd running back to where I shut down the running back position for myself, because we do play 3 receivers and 2 flexes.
Yeah, I guess we should have said that ahead of time. Our league is we do have two running back, wide receiver, tight end flexes to kind of give a little more flexibility, I guess. That wasn't really a pun. That was what the word's there for. So we do have 2 flexes. We start 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs. So I get what you're saying. I would love to get David. If you could get David Johnson at 4, that's awesome. But I think either way, you're gonna come away with a good player.
Yeah.
But JJ, where were you picking at? I believe you were 5th, right?
I'm number 5. Yeah.
So you're coming in after Lynch, knowing that he wants David Johnson. How are you feeling about where you're at?
I think that's perfectly fine. At number 5, honestly, if Le'Veon and Gurley and Zeke and maybe even Saquon, like if any of those guys are gone, at number 5, I probably am going to snag Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, okay. I got a feeling, though. I can tell you right now, a decent feeling that Saquon Barkley will probably be there at 5.
And honestly, I'm pretty high on Saquon Barkley, just like Lynch is high on the Cardinals' offense. I think that Barkley is going to be a beast this year.
Me too.
And I would be really tempted to take him there at number 5. But he's an unknown commodity in an offense that struggled last year with injuries and turnovers. Aaron Rodgers is coming off an injury, but even when he came back at the end of the season last year, he looked like a freaking champ.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can go wrong with Aaron Rodgers.
He got weapons. He got weapons, that's for sure.
And Jimmy Graham, going to the Packers. I'm leaning towards Aaron Rodgers, though. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll be on the Barkley train when Saturday night comes.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, here for most mock drafts that I'm seeing, let's say hypothetically the big 4 running backs are off the board. It's Gurley, Bell, David Johnson, and Zeke all in front of you, and you're left with Antonio Brown. Saquon Barkley will be hanging around there. Julio Jones, if you're feeling it. Odell Beckham. So you're telling me you would pick Aaron Rodgers over those players?
I mean, think about it this way. Other than Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell, Aaron Rodgers probably would have outscored any of those other players.
I see what you're saying.
Even though the running back pool is smaller than the quarterback pool is, having somebody that's going to score me 350 points or 400 points this year is something that I want to start as the bedrock of my team.
Okay, I don't disagree. I just think it's not in my nature to pick a quarterback in the first round. And in a lot of the mocks that I've been doing, which I haven't been doing a whole bunch of them, but as far as what I've been seeing, I haven't really been picking a quarterback until like the frickin' end of the draft. Like I did a mock and I didn't pick one until round 15. I don't even know how it happened. I just didn't. I don't know. That's just the way I draft for some reason. That's my route is I just punt the quarterback and I'll deal with that later.
Sure. I mean, any of the, outside of the top 3 quarterbacks or the top 5 quarterbacks, the production you're getting is pretty similar.
Yeah.
But I just like to grab the elite quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Yeah, Russell Wilson had a lot of points last year. A lot of people like Cam Newton, though I really don't. I don't understand the fantasy appeal of Cam Newton.
Cam Newton,
but
running touchdowns, base with the running.
He does have a lot of those. But anyway, I don't know. I'm also at number 5, so if I don't take a quarterback at 5, then there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 picks before I get my next pick.
But here's the deal, though. I think there's again, mock drafts aren't the Bible here. You can't draft for stupid. You can't plan for it. There's a lot of things that's going to change in this draft. I do think, however, that if you don't get Aaron Rodgers, you can get one of Brees, Brady, Wilson in the second round. I don't think 4 quarterbacks are going to go in the first 2 rounds. That's just based off of everything I've seen. I just don't think that'll be the case. So I don't know.
Spoken like a true Packers fan that wants Aaron Rodgers.
No, I already told. No, I'm telling you. Listen, I would love to have Aaron Rodgers on my team. I promise you, if he is sitting there at the end of round 1 and the start of round 2, I won't pick him because I don't know. To me, the value difference between quarterbacks are gonna get it no matter what. Like they are the quarterbacks. If you can find I can find a decent quarterback in the 10 to 15 range. And live with it and just hoard good running backs and good wide receivers because they're the most likely to get injured in the first place. I would like to have a stable, ready to fill in for anything that happens along the way. That's just me.
That's true. I think Saquon Barkley going to be the real deal. He looks like the best running back in the league, I think. Like, just the way he moves and cuts, like, he's a monster.
He looks like Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, he's worth a top 5 pick, I think.
Okay, guys, we've only seen one preseason game. Let's chill out a second here. Granted, the guy, he looks awesome.
With Barkley, my thing with Barkley is that offensive line is garbage.
Yes.
And why Eli struggled so much last year. Yes, they didn't have a running game, but because he was constantly under pressure. That offensive line didn't change that much to where I feel comfortable investing a top 5 pick in Barkley, that he's going to be the running back I want to start on my team every single game this year.
I totally agree. I'm picking at the end of the draft. I lucked out. Listen, I said if I wasn't going to win the first pick overall, I would love to just tank it. And thank you, Pac-Man, for just tanking it. I wound up getting the last pick in the draft, so I will get the first back-to-back. I'm going to get 2 pretty decent players right out the gate. However, I'm going to be waiting another 20 or so picks after. But everything I've seen, I'm very pleased with what I'm going to be able to assemble at the end of this draft. So, I mean, I'm ready for it. I love the spot I'm in. I think it's going to be fantastic. Reggie's already said he was willing to trade with me. I don't want to do it, though. I wouldn't trade for the number 1 pick, though.
I'll give you my number 1 pick and a bologna sandwich. Think about it.
Can you put mayo on it?
Extra mayo for you.
Ooh, I'll consider it. No, but I really like where I'm at. I think I'm going to be able to build up a couple decent players right there, and then just build off of that as we move through the draft. So I'm good with where I'm at number 12. Okay, and I just wanted to get real quick before we get out of the fantasy football, because I don't want to blow our load before the actual draft, because we already know too much of what's going to happen. Can't tip our hand too much. We will be doing a recap podcast afterwards, sometime next week, to just see how everything went down, see if we're happy with our teams, and after Reggie's done roster baiting, he can come back and tell everybody how happy he is with Ezekiel Elliott. But I do want to know, does anybody have like a sleeper, like a really deep sleeper? We don't have to do anything crazy because we're not super deep. We're like a 17-round league. But I want to know if anybody, like there's somebody on the very end of the round you might be thinking about scooping up just out of sheer potential. I'm
going to go with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. On the rankings I just looked at online, he's like ranked 350th. If you want him, you can get him. A rookie for the Green Bay Packers. I don't think Geronimo Allison has done anything to shore up the Devontae Adams. I think Randall Cobb's going to work primarily in the slot. Opens up that other receiver spot for someone like Valdez-Scantling who can fly and stretch the field for the Packers. And then that goes off of what JJ said. Rodgers has weapons. So Valdez-Scantling, since he can run as fast as he can, is going to be single covered the entire season.
Mm. Yeah, no, I like it. Listen, I would love for this guy to pan out. I would love for him to pan out and be the number 2 guy after Devontae Adams. As a Packers fan, he already looked good in the first preseason game. The dude looked like a stud. I would love to see that translate and him come, just be what we need at that number 2 spot after losing Jordy, or by losing Jordy, I mean letting Jordy walk in one of the saddest days in Packers history. But anyway, no, I think that's a good sleeper. I think that's somebody that will do something down the line, and I'm hoping for the best for him.
Part of this is just a sleeper in football in general, but potentially a fantasy sleeper for those of you that are looking for a backup quarterback. I really, really liked Lamar Jackson in the draft.
Okay.
And with Joe Flacco being injured on and off, and that team kind of like having an existential crisis, maybe he emerges as the starting quarterback at some point this season. I think he's really talented, and I think that maybe he might be worth a late draft snag just to see if he ends up taking that starting spot sometime this season.
Okay. I mean, I would love to see, not that I don't like Flacco, but I mean, I don't think the Ravens are going to be as excited. Well, I say this every year, but they somehow wind up winning games. I thought they were one of the worst teams in the league for when they made the Super Bowl. So I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. But I see the Ravens, I see Flacco, and I'm kind of bored. I don't know. They're just kind of a boring team. But I think Lamar Jackson is an exciting player, and if he ever got the opportunity, I would definitely be. Like, if something happened to Flacco, not that I'm saying it will or wishing that upon him, but I would enjoy watching Ravens games if Jackson was at quarterback. I think it'd be fun to watch.
I got a question. Is Lamar Jackson number 2 or is RG3 number 2?
Good question.
I don't think that it matters at this point. I think that number is just arbitrary.
Yeah, I would
Ravens
say
minds.
Yeah.
I think RG3 is, just there. Taking
Right now they have Lamar Jackson listed as their number 2 on the depth chart.
Yeah, I would imagine he would be the next man up because they spent draft capital on him. They don't have any ties to RG3. They're just they bring him in obviously because he was once a good player. You're going to keep giving this guy opportunities, thinking maybe he'll come back to form. But I mean, Lamar Jackson, you spend the draft capital on him, you're going to want to groom him to be the next.
Was he
man
the
up.
first round pick?
I don't know if he was first or second. I don't remember, but it was still a high draft pick.
Flacco?
No. Lamar Jackson.
Lamar was a first round, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah, final pick of first round. You're right. So he was a first round. You don't draft a quarterback in the first round if you don't expect something of him and maybe potentially the future of your franchise.
Yeah.
But in the sleeper department, I will say one player that I was looking at all last season, he was a rookie, and he did fumble in his first game, and he really never had an opportunity to gain traction. John Ross, wide receiver for the Bengals, the dude can flat out run like he's freaking a lightning bolt, right? Get the ball into his hands. If Marvin Lewis can find a way to get this guy the ball creatively, which I don't think he can, but I'm holding out hope he might be able to find a little creativity in there. Get the ball in John Ross's hands. I think he would be an amazing compliment next to AJ Green. But I have yet to see it, obviously, and I'd love to see it this season. So I'm thinking maybe late in the draft or sometime this season, I will be looking at John Ross seriously and thinking about adding him.
I think the Bengals. Yeah, I was going to say the Bengals, personnel-wise, I think suffer from some of the same problems that the Giants have. Not a very strong run game and a semi-inaccurate passer. And also their coach GM strategy just isn't Bill Belichick.
Yeah, they've been kind of lackluster for about 10 years.
Doyle loves himself some Andy Dalton though, and they got Joe Mixon now, so Joe Mixon is solid. He's actually maybe someone I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, Joe Mixon I think is fine, and he's he showed some decency last year when he wasn't hurt. And they did get rid of Jeremy Hill, so now that issue is not there anymore. So it's not super crowded. Giovanni Bernard I think is a good complement to Mixon. So I think they're doing things right, but until they like you said, until they get rid of Marvin Lewis and just restart or reinvigorate that franchise, they're going to be just muddling in mediocrity for just decades. That's what they've been doing. When I first started watching football, the Bengals were a joke. They're better than they were when I first started watching, but
better joke.
They're just spinning their tires in slightly better than joke. Yeah, it's just weird. That franchise is weird. I don't know why they keep holding on to Marvin Lewis. It's like he has something on somebody, one of the higher ups or something. I don't know. It's really weird there. But that's
he's been there for like 11 years, hasn't won a playoff game.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't understand. I do remember that one season with Carson Palmer though, when he went down with that knee injury. I was livid.
That Bengals team was like the best team in football, I thought.
Yeah, they were so
good.
Nasty. Oh my God, I was so mad. Reggie, did you have a sleeper you want to throw out?
Yeah, I got a sleeper. I don't want to give up all my win the draft and win the league, but
sure.
Tavon Austin, the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're finally going to take advantage. I think they're finally going to take advantage of not having Dez Bryant. Like, Dak is good at spreading the ball around. Like, whenever Dez was hurt, everyone would get like 5 or 6 catches, like spread it out easily. And now that he's gone, he's a more accurate passer. Spread it out to whoever's open. And if Tavon can get open, he's a big play guy. So I think he's a good sleeper for like, if you need just to fill in a roster spot, give you 20 points, on any given Sunday. So I think he's a good sleeper pick.
Okay, that's fine. Listen, hey, don't have any issue with you coming out here saying Tavon Austin, because I promise you I won't be touching him. So don't think you're giving away some golden nugget to me. I will not bother. You can have him.
I'll take him.
And I could be wrong. I mean, he may actually turn this. I mean, he was there with the Rams for the longest time. I don't think they ever really used him properly.
They tried.
So maybe a change of scenery is what he needed. So I could be wrong, but I promise you I won't be the one to experiment with Tavon Austin on my team. So I think that should wrap up most of our fantasy football pre-draft talk. We will get into a little bit more after the draft come, next week? Obviously, this weekend we're going to be doing the draft. So, again, follow us on Facebook at The Chunk Pod. You can follow along on the draft. It'll be Saturday night, August 18th, right around 7 o'clock. We're looking to start, so we'll get everything set up and ready to go. So you can follow us on there for the draft.
What's that Twitter? What's the Twitter?
Oh, I believe it's at The Chunk Pod. Thanks for asking.
All
right, moving on. We got a couple things for entertainment and a couple things for gaming. Obviously, we went fantasy football heavy here, but we can bust through these. In entertainment, I just wanted to bring this up because I saw a clickbait article. I saw the words Green Lantern and DC Universe, and I was like, I'm intrigued. You have my attention. Then I saw Tom Cruise as the frontrunner to play Green Lantern in DC Universe. I almost threw up when I saw this.
Disgusting.
Yeah,
I'm here for it. I love it.
When are we going to get our black Green Lantern? I don't understand.
I don't know. I always thought Idris Elba would have been a perfect Jon Stewart for Green Lantern. I don't know if that ship has sailed yet, but an older Jon Stewart, I don't think the ship. I mean, you could still do it. So, Tom Cruise as a Green Lantern in any form, I don't think is a good idea. But I think it was a clickbait article. I did not give them the click, but I did go to the comments and watch the everyone just losing their mind, which is what I wanted to do exactly what I did in my head when I read it. It made me sick to my stomach, and I really hope it doesn't happen.
I'm just going to put it out there. Hal Jordan is kind of like the classic Green Lantern, but DC has had so much more success, I feel like, with Jon Stewart Green Lantern in their animated series. I don't understand why they wouldn't go that route. He's been in pretty much all their Justice League cartoon shows. Every animated movie that they've had has been Jon Stewart. I don't know. I know it's just a rumor about Tom Cruise and all that, but I think that the Jon Stewart Green Lantern is a better choice in general for DC.
For sure. Some would say this one right here is actually the best choice for Green Lantern.
Hey, this is Phil Lamar. And this is Jon Stewart. And you're listening to the Chunk Podcast.
There you go.
Ooh.
That's the good Green Lantern. That's Jon Stewart. And I do think you're right. I think moving forward, if they were going to bring in a Green Lantern and a Green Lantern Corps to the DC universe, I think Jon Stewart would be the wise move. Please not Tom Cruise. But
plus,
what?
Oh, I was just gonna say also, if you're the kind of person that wants to see more diversity in our film, I think that would also be a good contributing factor towards that casting choice.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. But speaking of Idris Elba. I believe someone here has seen some Idris Elba's name floating around with not a Green Lantern, but a James Bond. There's a potential. I feel like this has been going on for like 10 plus years. Idris Elba, there was a huge backlash. People are like, are you kidding me? This can't happen. And then to which I followed up with, why? But Lynch said he may have saw something online that would be the yin to the yang of Idris Elba as Bond.
Seen things online and I've heard things on the radio. The things online are supportive of it. They are basically saying that it's time. The thing I heard on the radio was that Idris Elba can't succeed as James Bond. James Bond is, predominantly white, and he takes office up in predominantly white areas, but is black, so he can't sneak around.
Okay, what does that even mean? You can't sneak around because he's black. I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense.
No, I guess they're just saying that, the villains in James Bond would be like, oh, there's James Bond. He's black.
oh, okay.
Dude, ninjas dress in black. What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
No, but if he's like in this rich, fancy place, a lot of black people, everyone look at him walking out the door.
Oh, I
he
see.
can sneak around on his missions and do his thing when everyone's like, "Oh, who's this guy? What's he doing?"
I mean, we could get like a little inner city bond, you know? Maybe that could be something.
I wouldn't mind it, but I just don't know if that's the route that they're gonna go.
Yeah.
Chicago Bond.
Or maybe Idris Elba, James Bond is just so classy and so charismatic that everybody knows he's James Bond and they can't do anything about it.
Ooh, I feel like he could pull that off.
That's sexy.
He could pull that off, man. He's not a bad looking dude. I'm just saying.
If I could be any dude, it'd be Idris Elba.
He really is a stud muffin. Am I? And I mean that in the most straightforward way possible.
Right.
All right. Everyone. Now that we're all uncomfortable here.
All right.
Moving on, we can go to the gaming. I mean, we've talked enough about that. There's a couple updates in gaming, and a game that actually got an update, a little World of Warcraft update. I believe JJ, you know what's going on with this?
Yeah. All right. So it's only going to be a small, brief touch and base on this. For those of you that aren't aware, the World of Warcraft has been around since 2004.
Woo!
So 14 years in the making. They released their 7th expansion, the Battle for Azeroth. And for those of you that are wondering, the Battle for Azeroth, what is going on? They actually are looking to go back to their roots of pitting the two factions against each other, the Alliance and the Horde. People said some things, and then they did some things, and now they're fighting again after jointly working to save the world from giant demons. Players are able to level their characters up to level 120, which in the original vanilla WoW was the max cap was level 60. So we've just come a long way from what it used to be at launch, and there are some quality of life changes that they've introduced, some new PvP modes that we haven't seen before. Personally, I don't know that I'm going to jump on the BFA train, but there is a lot of buzz going around the internet, Reddit, and other places for what seems to be a pretty compelling expansion for this MMO.
I can't believe it's been around since 2004. Only game that's been around longer is the latest Grand Theft Auto that won't ever go away. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's incredible. How long have you been playing it?
I played probably from 2005 for a couple of years. And then again, maybe like 2010 to 2012. I've only played certain expansions. Personally, I don't think that it matches up to Final Fantasy XIV, which is the MMO that I play nowadays. But what's always brought me back to World of Warcraft is the lore, the characters, kind of just the expansive stories that they tell. So I've played for a long time on and off, but I can't say that I'm a hardcore World of Warcraft player.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's like a billion players out there that would say that they are hardcore players. So yeah, that's a huge update. Obviously, to be around that long and only have 7 major updates. So this is obviously a pretty big deal for World of Warcraft fans. Something that actually changed as well, Lynch had talked about it. FIFA apparently has actually changed for once instead of just porting over another game with more soccer players.
Yeah, I mean, it's still porting over the same game. They're adding more gameplay, but the biggest thing that they did, more licensing, so they're able to bring in more authentic uniforms. They actually are bringing in the Champions League this year as well. It's, obviously the biggest club soccer tournament in the world, and you're able to play in the Champions League throughout your season. So say you want to control Real Madrid without Ronaldo, be able to play in the Champions League and, advance through the group stages, through the knockout stages, and then into quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. And you'll experience what it is like to be...
So they've never had this before, is what you're saying?
They've never had it. They've always had knockoff tournaments. Like, you're still able to play, in Italy, you're still able to play in the Italy Domestic Cup or the English Domestic Cup if you're playing in the Premier League. But actually been able to play in the UEFA Champions League.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't played FIFA in a few years. I did get the itch every once in a while where I'm like, man, I want to play FIFA. It's like the same way I do with like MLB The Show. I like, man, I really want to play this game. I get it. I play it for a couple months, or a month, or I get it, and I'm done with it. It's just like, okay, I'll see you in another 4 years. It's like, I don't know why. That's just how it is for me. But obviously, FIFA has a crazy following, and the people who play that game, I don't know how they're so good at it, because I play it, and when I played it, I'm awful. I can't score a goal to save my life.
I love FIFA. One summer I played it like every single day for the whole summer. It's like the best game. It's so addicting. So much fun to score a goal. I could play it forever.
Reggie caught a lot of L's that summer too.
I haven't caught an L since
you
a long time ago.
He was thinking, racking his brain. It was a long time. No, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that they're actually putting a little effort into it. It is easy nowadays, especially with sports games, to just kind of do minor changes, like things that a typical like update you would get on a regular game. They just hold it back, save it for the next year. Madden, 2K. Okay, anyway, those games, you know what I'm saying? They do the same things like that, and it's nice to see them actually attempt to tweak it enough that it's noticeable. So that's cool that FIFA's doing that. But that, I think, will wrap up our podcast for today. But thanks for sticking around. We are excited for this weekend. I do want to plug it one more time because it's going to be an awesome thing. On our Facebook page, we're going to be going Facebook Live for our fantasy football draft. So if you want to check it out, it's facebook.com. Search for The Chunk Pod or just The Chunk. It might pop up there as well. Hit like, and you will be notified when we go live on Saturday, August 18th at 7 p.m. We will... I believe 9 of us will be together. The other 3 will be long distance, but we'll still get their faces up on the computer as well. So we'll all technically be there in spirit, and it's usually it's a pretty good time. I look at me underselling it. It's a freaking awesome time. It's my favorite thing to do is when we can all get together as friends, do our fantasy football draft, and berate each other to their faces when Regi makes an awful pick.
That never happens. I've never made a bad pick.
You know what?
6 years have been done.
No, you're right. Listen, I totally agree with you. I thought that was true up until last year. I don't know what. You must have been a little...
Doyle, last year, if I would have kept my team, I would have won the whole thing. I traded all my good players away.
I'm just saying, man, I thought for sure you were like on something last year because you weren't making Regi picks. I'm just telling you. So I
could have been drinking wine.
I hope you come a little more prepared this year. I am excited to get everybody together, and we will see you on Facebook Live this weekend. But thank you so much for listening. Lynch, Regi, JJ, thanks for stopping by. And by stopping by, I mean this is your job, so you don't have a choice. Thanks for participating. But yeah, no, thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you guys next week if you're just listening to the podcast. But we'll also catch you this weekend on our Facebook Live.
Chunk it up out there, folks.
Chunk it up.